Mr. Speaker, that someone that we have on our committee is a business person who has a history of creating jobs in my native state of Texas. I'm very happy now at this point to yield to my fellow Texan, Mr. Williams, as much time as he may consume to give us his thoughts on Dodd-Frank as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you for your leadership. And before I begin, I would just like to say I am a small business owner. I've owned my own business for 44 years. I've been through a lot. I've been through dollar gasoline. I've been through 20% interest where I borrowed money. I've been through the slowdown in '88. I've been through 9/11. And I must tell you, the economy that we're in now, Main Street America, is hurting like I've never seen it hurt before. And that's why I'm up here to talk about this situation that we seem to honor tonight, Dodd-Frank. I join the chairman and my other colleagues here tonight to speak on what I believe is one of the most impulsive, deceiving, and un-American pieces of legislation that has ever been passed through this body. What I'm talking about is a 2003 law that has unfairly blanketed our entire financial system with more than 400 costly rules and regulations. Just as we have found out that the Affordable Care Act is not affordable, we are learning that Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act doesn't do what its name suggests. I believe we probably need a Government Protection Act. Now, Dodd-Frank is hammering small-town America, as we've talked about, and I mean like I've never seen before in 44 years. Small-town America, Main Street America is hurting, and they're hurting with unnecessary but very expensive compliance measures that are hard to meet. As a small business owner, as I said, of over 40 years, I can say firsthand that Dodd-Frank is driving Main Street job creators and community banks and credit unions out of business. Yesterday in our op-ed, Congressman Randy Nagelbauer and I wrote that the American people were fooled into believing Dodd-Frank was necessary to ensure financial stability and prevent future market meltdowns. But instead of responsibly studying the root causes of the financial crisis, Democrats in Washington rushed to regulate. In my home state of Texas, one of the healthiest economies in the nation, 115 banks have closed their doors. These banks are far from the major financial institutions in New York. They are small-town community lenders that cannot pull together resources to comply with Dodd-Frank. There are community banks and credit unions that issue 51% of all business loans under $1 million. The crippling effects of Dodd-Frank have trickled down from the President's pen to local job creators who had nothing to do with the financial crisis. The costs have been passed along to them. It isn't right, and it's not fair. Dodd-Frank is another example of how this administration discourages growth. Under President Obama and his administration, the risk of running a business is no longer worth the possible reward. And that's a big problem. This is America. Bad policies like Dodd-Frank are the product of lawmakers who have little to no business experience. They haven't worked on payrolls. They haven't met a payroll. They haven't counted inventory. They haven't met with employees that need personal help. They haven't put people to work. But they have done something. It's issue 153 new regulations, 170 or 87 compliance changes, and 59 annual adjustments to thresholds. At what price, we ask? The Congressional Budget Office and Government Accountability Office have both estimated that Dodd-Frank costs $3 billion to implement and will result in nearly $27 billion in private sector fees, assessments, and premiums. We simply can't afford this. For this reason, I have introduced legislation that will loosen Dodd-Frank's chokehold on small businesses and Main Street America. The Community Financial Institution Exemption Act will require the Customer Financial Protection Bureau to explain to Main Street lenders why they are not exempted from certain CFPB rules and regulations as permitted. My bill has the support of the Independent Bankers Association of Texas and the Texas Credit Union Association, the National Association of Federal Credit Unions, and the Credit Union National Association. I ask all my colleagues to support my efforts. It's time we stop punishing those who put their livelihoods on the line to realize the American dream and not the American scheme. I yield back the remainder of my time. In God we trust.
I thank my friend and the gentleman from Texas, my fellow Texan, for his comments and the perspective that he brings as somebody who's actually successfully created jobs.